Welcome to Through the Dark Woods podcast, a space for conversation around navigating grief and trauma, both personal and transpersonal, from the somatic and soul-based perspective. I'm Josia, your host. I'm a somatic therapist, grief worker, ritualist, and the founder of the Dark Woods of Grief community, where we offer an online grief support group, as well as courses and trainings around the art of grief tending and ritual. You can learn more about our work at darkwoodsofgrief.com. Link is in the show notes. This podcast is recorded and produced where I live as an uninvited guest in Kathat, the traditional territory of the Kliyama people. And rather than giving kind of a lip service acknowledgement to that, I want to really acknowledge that the process of reconciliation is, I think, a lot more complex than is typically acknowledged when we do these land acknowledgements. My own ancestors came across the ocean from the northern lands and islands of what we now know as Ireland and England. Some of my ancestors immigrated here during the Irish potato famine / genocide. And, so it's complex. There's many layers. And my intention and prayer is that this podcast may directly and indirectly support the repair of the harm done through colonization of this land and its traditional people, as well as repairing the even older harm done by the colonization of the old world, as we might call it. And, we also address the, current colonial issues, such as the genociding of the people of Palestine, the Congo, Sudan, and many other places in the world at this time. And our prayers are with those people. May this work benefit all beings everywhere. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free of suffering and the causes of suffering. And may we all recognize our liberation together. So I'm here today with Jane Spielman and Madison Steadwell, and I am super excited to talk to them about their upcoming course, Writing with the Well Ancestors. Super, super beautiful offering, and Jane and Madison are both graduates of the 2023, which was our original cohort of the Dark Woods Grief Tending and Ritual Facilitation Training. And it's been so beautiful to just watch them grow and blossom. And they're in the year 2 mentorship of that program, which involves facilitating in our online grief support community and just witnessing their incredible facilitation skills and just the depth of what they offer and what they bring. So I'm really excited to be supporting them to bring their first course onto our Dark Woods of Grief platform. And I hope you enjoy our conversation. Okay, so welcome everybody. I'm super happy to be here today with Jane Spielman and Madison Steadwell, who are about to offer a really beautiful and very timely for the season workshop on writing with the well ancestors. And I think I'd love to start with asking you guys, because, not everybody is familiar with what do you even mean writing with the well ancestors? What would that even mean? And so what is ancestor work, and, why do you feel that it's important in these times? And maybe say a bit about how it's benefited you in your own life. Yeah.
Well, hi, I'm Jane, and I'm glad to be here with the two of you, so deeply appreciative. For me, being able to discover well ancestors who could help me, guide me, be beside me as I try to unpack what the trauma and griefs of this life are about and how to handle them has been really, really vital. And we're talking about well ancestors because most of us have unwell ancestors and trauma that we are trying to heal from. And it's a kind of magic, if you will, to resource the well ancestors who are here to hold us. And in my life, for example, I have somebody who came to me when I was at a yoga retreat in Costa Rica, who came to me from the ocean. And Aja was her name. She gave me her name, and she just let it be known that she was here for me. And that made me feel less alone in the traumas and griefs that I'm living in.
Beautiful. Thanks, Jane. Yeah, and what about you, Madison?
Yeah, hi everybody. Um, for me, I had never considered my ancestors before until probably a few years ago now, when I started to become involved in a wilderness school on the west coast of BC. And ancestors started to come into the conversation. There was a yearly ancestor feast around this time of year, late October. And so our project was to make food to feed our ancestors, which was a, more of a foreign concept to me before. And I feel like a lot of people have this experience of not having any relationship with their ancestors, or if they do, like Jane was saying, it's like a story of trauma or wanting to resist that connection or block off that connection because of people's family stories. Especially for me being a settler, so many of my ancestors, almost all of them, have come from not this land of Turtle Island and came from across the sea. And so when they left those places, most of them were leaving to come here and wanted to leave the past behind. And so all these stories and traditions were left behind. And so then my identity became white, which it is. And there's like a deeper wondering that I feel like a lot of people um, look to of like where's my connection to my people. And a lot of people feel this feeling of unbelonging and not feeling like they have a place in their own immediate family. Even lots of people of color, they've suffered so much, their families, and so many beautiful traditions and culture have just, there's been no place for them and they've been gone and lost. And so as I started to explore who are my ancestors and what are their traditions and actually looking to honor them, is when I started to learn more from you, Josiah, about the differentiation between our well ancestors and how we can actually go to them for support and to learn those things in a, it's not like, I mean, sometimes it can be like a researching way, but also looking into the spirit world and opening ourselves up to that connection. And the first step is really acknowledging that they're there. And through that, I've felt so much more guidance and connection to where I'm going by knowing some of the stories, starting to connect with some of the stories of where my people have come from and their past. So that's what I'll say.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Yeah, I really appreciate what you both are sharing. And I mean, it's such an interesting thing, this idea of the well ancestors, because, like you both have noted, I think it's really common for us to at least have some awareness of, the ancestors that are in our lineage, particularly like our close lineage. If there was trauma or grief that was unprocessed, we're often like very well aware of that because it actually maybe had an impact on us intergenerationally. And I know that was definitely the case for myself when I first started exploring this stuff. And even when I first started exploring it in a somatic way, a lot of, at first it was a lot of the kind of trauma pieces that were coming forward that I was like, whoa, where's that feeling coming from? And this learning to connect with the well ancestors is so beautiful and such a, I think, foundational piece for this work, because it owns and recognizes that our bodies, like literally our physical bodies, like our DNA actually carries a sense of not only wellness, but like wisdom and knowing and like deep culture and story and tradition. It's like, even if we don't remember it cognitively it's in our brains. And Jane, I really was so blown away by so both Jane and Madison did our first cohort of the in the 2023 the Dark Woods Grief Tending and Ritual Facilitation training. And for Jane's, everyone gets an opportunity to facilitate something. And Jane brought this piece, this writing with the ancestors or the well ancestors and the future generations. And when you brought that into the room and facilitated us through that experience, I was totally blown away. And I'm curious, like, why do you think, Jane, that it's so powerful to come at this through writing?
Um, I think writing can tap into parts of ourselves that we don't know are breathing, parts of our stories that have been hidden somatically. And so Madison and I are somatic healers, and so we experience everything through the body, and yet very often those words are not forthcoming. We don't hear what different ancestors or parts of us have to say about it. We're not experiencing some of the experiences. So writing can be a safe territory to start to let the story seep out. And the kind of literature that we use by writers who've done this work and plumbed these depths inspires us to say, oh, I've got something like that going on. And so we prompt people to really explore, to visualize. We support people to imagine where in the earth or in the cosmos or in the air around us these ancestors are existing, and wanting to support us. I mean, when we feel alone, there's a song that's going through my head a lot by Ali Halprin, that I'm not alone, I'm not alone, which is Madison was talking about. We long for community. We long for places to receive us as if we really belonged there. And so writing and then sharing from your writing, which I learned through one of my teachers, Tanya Taylor Rubenstein, really helped me to plumb depths for the memoir that I've written and is going into editing. I found places that I wouldn't have found, stories I wouldn't have known if I hadn't had the support of writing through them.
Beautiful. And do you feel like part of that is because it's like the writing practice that you bring, it has a somatic element to it? Do you feel like that? Can you say more about that?
I think, a lot of writing is very heady and not somatic at all. But the writing that we're doing and that I do in my own personal practice is extremely somatic. It has to be, we have to explore that area of, the hip that is talking to me, or, the part of, the neck that or shoulder that wants to have something to say about this. So I combine it with my experience with internal family systems and really parts work talking. And a lot of those parts sit inside of our bodies for ages, and for some people never ever get spoken. They're hidden forever because that's the culture, to keep all that hidden. And the colonialists thrive off of that. They thrive off of sorrow. They eat sorrow. In this book that I've been talking about, The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill, there's a whole area of the world in which the sorrow eaters thrive on sorrow.
Wow.
And so they maintain it. And so how do we climb in to break the hold of, everything is sorrowful? It has to be, because some sorrow eaters are very hungry.
Wow. I love that because, and it's like, because you're really bringing home the point there of like, because often I think when people think about doing ancestor work or grief work or, these kind of maybe more shadow practices, it's like they think, oh, it's like going into the darkness and why would I want to go there? But really, it's like, that's why, because we need to transmute these energies and connect with the resource that's there so that we're not, stuck in it, stuck in the mud, kind of like you said, some people for their whole lives can be there. Yeah.
It's about liberation. And we do somatic practices that help to release the possibilities of liberation.
Beautiful. If you'd like to learn more about the Writing with the Well Ancestors course, please check out the link in the show notes or shoot us an email at info@darkwoodsofgrief.com. Yeah, beautiful. And I want to go to Madison now because I know for you, Madison, like something you talk about all the time is just how one of your biggest grief is the loss of village and the loss of that sense of belonging. And would you say that the ancestor work that you've done has brought you into a sense of more connection or belonging, or I mean, it's not the expectation that things are going to be like completely healed, but like, how has this work supported that for you personally?
Yeah, I definitely feel a greater sense of belonging, though there's like a subtlety or a softness in it. Yeah, like it's not like the holy grail, like I finally belong. It's like knowing, even when my mind can get all caught up, like, am I really talking to these invisible beings right now? Like my mind goes there. And I'm like, I'm still gonna light my candle, and I feel like, and I have to keep leaning into trusting that somebody has my back, that my ancestors are looking out for me. That I know that this is something that a lot of Indigenous people say, that where that we are the prayers of our ancestors, and so again, like I was saying, knowing where yeah, no, like knowing where my people come from, and knowing our history. A lot of my ancestors are Irish, and I mean, I have a lot of different ancestors from different places, but that's the culture that I'm most drawn to. And also I'm mostly Irish, so works out. um, and so I can like look at, there's some people who still carry the stories and traditions of the Irish people, which I'm so grateful for, and I can learn from them, learning from like historians and some people who are priestesses or pagans, and being able to learn how my ancestors healed, how my ancestors connected with the land, like what plants did they harvest, what plants meant certain things to them, what were their medicines, because just so much of that has been lost. And so definitely in all of the practices and in connecting with my ancestors in various ways, like I mentioned, lighting candles or feeding them, praying, asking them for help, I definitely feel a lot more belonging. Yeah.
Mm, beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Jane.
So, I knew you would bring this up eventually, but the example that I used of Aja coming to me is not a blood ancestor of mine, but is what we call a milk ancestor, somebody who is connected to us, but not necessarily through a bloodline or a DNA line. So some of us may need to bring in a lot of persons from whom we've learned, who've given us the space to grow, who've really saw us and believed in us in a way that our birth families didn't and couldn't because of their limited toolbox. So we're really opening a much broader toolbox of finding support.
Yeah, I just love this idea that you introduced me to, this idea of the blood and milk ancestors, and I mean, yeah, especially for those of us who have really a lot of trauma in our lineages, to be able to recognize and honor and bring in the ancestors that come from the lineages that we've received teachings and support from. It's so, so powerful, and I think it's so necessary in these times, for sure. So I really appreciate you bringing that forward, as another resource, really.
This one came from the ocean. And, I've had others come from the stars, and some
Mm.
come from the earth. And Madison, you've done so much work through your earth schooling about how ancestors speak to us, their bones, the people who are literally under our feet. How does the earth hold ancestors and ancestral wisdom for us?
Yeah, do you want to say a little bit about that, Madison?
Yeah, this is something that I think about being a settler here, that um like under my feet are very few bones of my my blood. Also, my mom is adopted, and so it's been difficult for us to find information about her family. And so, like you were speaking to, I also work with my milk ancestors. They're not biological, but my Momo who passed, and connecting with their line as well from Italy. Um, and so, like in looking at the earth and seeing that not many of my people live here, also in our grief work at the Dark Woods, we can call upon the support of the well ancestors from the land, the longtime stewards of the land, whose wisdom is literally under our feet. Also, their wisdom is still living in the people who still live here today, um, their descendants. So there's a listening to the ancestors here and listening to those who are still with us and what they have to say. But I also, um, if I'm outside in nature, I often call upon their support or the support of the plant realms and the animals, because also their wisdom is living around us for those that are alive, but also under our feet. Um, and yeah, this is where I feel like ancestor work is so powerful, um, because I don't think we always remember this, that the ancestors are literally all around us. Like I've said, sometimes my mind can get like about these invisible beings, but they're actually like right here.
You're right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's very exciting to be launching this course at this time when it feels like our world is really being crushed by forces of hatred and colonialism and violence, and to bring out our higher selves, our more adaptable, loving, kind, um, uh, knowledgeable selves. To be in touch with our own awareness of who we are and how we can be whole, so we can be whole in the world for this moment. So I think it's timely, not only because of the time of year and the thin veil that we're allowing to come up without the usual fear, because we're welcoming these forces to help us to delineate what each of our roles can be. What is the way that we can give best to ourselves so that we can offer the best of ourselves? And
Yes.
I think the course is a way to nurture that in community, uh, to hear rich sources write our own rich material, and then offer and be witnessed by each other in community.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I was thinking about that when we were talking about belonging, and like there is such a sense of like doing this work on our own can be powerful and really helpful, but when we actually start doing it in a group of people together and like everyone's sharing, like the inspiration and the energy, I think is actually so much more powerful to bring. It's like not just ourselves into the room, but like our whole communities of ancestors getting to interact with each other almost in a way. And I'm just thinking about you naming the, just the pain in the world right now and the suffering and the madness really, as well, Jane. And I'm thinking about also how this is a way of being responsible, in terms of, I know that in the different like allyship training and work that I've done, one of the things that the Indigenous people are really asking us to do is actually this work, like get to know your own ancestors, where you come from, your culture, the culture that you come from, because if we don't have a connection with culture, then we're hungry for culture and we want to eat other people's culture, right? We want to consume it, and there's nothing wrong with in my opinion anyways, there's nothing wrong with sharing culture and learning from each other. But when we're starving in that way because we don't have our own connection to culture, then and that's literally how, I don't want to just broadly say the Indigenous people, but I've heard from multiple different Indigenous people who are still connected to their own traditions, that they see us as like almost like a hungry ghost kind of energy when we aren't connected in that way. Yeah, and that's what we're seeing happen in places like Palestine and the Congo. It's like this consumption, right, of the land, of the resources, and
sorrow eaters. The plunder of Ghana right now is so shocking that my granddaughter has to send bottled water from here to Ghana to her mother, who lives in Ghana, and because the land has been so mined that there's no clean water to drink in Ghana. So the plunder of the land, and why I'm so thrilled to be working with someone like Madison, who's so in touch with the land. I mean, I get to walk in my New York City park every day, which I'm thrilled about, and I love certain trees, and I have a relationship to all these changing flowers and the seasons and so forth. But our connection to our land is crucial. Most of us have been raised without that. I was raised without one drop of dirt, not one drop of dirt. What does that mean? I also wanted to raise the fact that I came into this work when I lost my wife, and as a lesbian queer person, that we're sidelined. We're not in the center of culture, just like people of color or colonized people, like the Palestinians. And so how do our narratives really get to be told if we're non-binary or trans or queer or other? And so this is a way for people to start to plumb the depths of, maybe it's not your grandparents, but there's a very, very long tradition of queer, non-gender conforming people in the universe for millennia. So, how do you start to tell that story?
Beautiful. Oh, I love that. Yeah. So again, it kind of speaks to that sense of finding that belonging, finding that belonging in that place in the world. And yeah, I think, it's really such a beautiful way to, and especially in at times like these, where we're witnessing all these things unfolding, in our phones that are actually happening on the other side of the world. And it can often bring a feeling of powerlessness. This is one way that we can actually step into being responsible and doing the work and feeding ourselves and belonging ourselves in such a beautiful way that really does, it may not seem like it's not this grand gesture that's actually, putting a stop to things, but to feed what's good on the earth in this way. What a beautiful thing. So thank you so much for offering this for our community, both of you. And wonder if you want to leave us with just one last thing.
I just wanted to say, I think it is a grand gesture, in not in an egotistical way, but it's a grand gesture to go inside and plumb our depths, and so that we can be present in healthy ways for the descendants. How are we supposed to live in a time when the earth is experiencing such pain, and families are losing whole families at one time with a bomb, or hurricanes take away entire cities, areas of states in the US, and fires demolish areas of Canada, or Nepal is destroyed. But each of us needs to bring ourselves to that. So it's deep work to go inside so that we can come out able to be of service, to be of use. Marge Piercy says in her poem, "To be of use," that the biggest desire is to be ready inside of ourselves with all of our parts to be of use in the world.
Thank you. Yeah, beautiful. Madison, do you want to leave us with any last words?
Yeah, just one thing I forgot to say earlier was that through your teachings, Josiah, of how through fire, we can, that's a gateway to our ancestors. My ancestors have helped me a lot in being able to actually feel my grief. And I know that you've taught us this, Josiah, that like grief is so like it's really in our bodies, and it's also in a way like humans actually just can't fully hold the space for it. Like it's so strong. It's not like human support is usually sometimes just not enough. And so we actually need to go to the land and the ancestors and spirit world, because there's just so much that's usually even greater than us. Like when something, perhaps there's something that happens that brings up grief, and a lot of unprocessed grief from our family lines can, or from our own self, can come through in that moment, for all the things that haven't been grieved. And so my ancestors have been a really significant role in me being able to actually feel grief in in a way that it can actually move through me.
Beautiful.
Completely. The most powerfully has been when I'm able to ask my ancestors for help, and I feel their support there, and I feel how big their capacity is, and that they're not scared of my grief, which I often is a holdback for me when I'm with people, because it's just so intense. So I just wanted to say that too, that by doing this work, it's helped me be able to heal in really deep, powerful ways.
That's so important. Thank you. Yeah, because I think there's a lot of people out there who feel like, we do a lot of talk about grieving in community, but I think there's a lot of people out there that are like, for that exact reason, right? And so to have something where there is a sense of community, but you're also learning these skills that you can then take, to nature and to the fire and to the water, and be receiving that support. What a fantastic offering. So yeah, thank you both again. I'm super excited for your course. And so if people are interested in learning more, you're offering a free intro class on Sunday, October 27th, from 1 to 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, which I guess is 10 to 11:30 Pacific Time. And then the course itself begins on November 3rd, perfect timing. We're just like right in that window of the veils thinning and Samhain and, ancestor time. So it runs Sundays from 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern. So that's 10 to noon Pacific time, November 3rd, 10th, 17th, 24th, December 1st and 8th. So just completing in time for the holidays. And if people want to find out more about that or register, we'll definitely make sure that the link is wherever you find this video. I really look forward to just hearing about all the beauty and magic that comes out of this. So thank you too so much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you.
Come join us.
Yeah. If you'd like to learn more about the Writing with the Well Ancestors course, please check out the link in the show notes or shoot us an email at info@darkwoodsofgrief.com. And again, if you'd like to learn more about the Writing with the Well Ancestors course, or perhaps come to the free intro session at least to check it out and see if it's something you might want to jump into, definitely check out the link in the show notes. Or if you can't find that for some reason, shoot us an email at info@darkwoodsofgrief.com. And if you are somebody who is currently grieving and are looking for a incredibly supportive and profoundly potent community space where all types of grief are welcome, then you have found it. We are darkwoodsofgrief.com, and come and check out our Through the Dark Woods membership community, as well as our other courses and programs. And if you are somebody who supports others through grief or would like to do that, definitely come and check out our courses and trainings. All right. Thanks for being here with us today. Blessings. And may all beings be happy and free of suffering and the causes of suffering. And may we all recognize our liberation together.